They thought my silence was a down payment on their future. My daughter and her husband spent 3 years measuring my hallways for their new furniture, waiting for me to pay off the last $270,000 so they could kick me to the curb. What they didn't know, I was recording every word. And, on her 30th birthday, I gave her the only gift she actually earned an eviction notice, 30 days after I heard my daughter whisper that she wished I would just leave already. I stood in my own kitchen, holding a new set of house keys. I had paid off $270,000 that weekend. I had also ended something I never thought I would, but that part came later. It started on a Friday. The pot pie was already in the oven. I remember the smell of butter and thyme filling the kitchen, sticking to my sweater. My name is Elaine Mercer. I live in Tacoma, in the same house my husband and I refinanced when things got tight. I have made chicken pot pie for my daughter Lily every birthday since she was 8. She once told me, flour on her cheeks. Promise you'll always make this for me. I did. I always do. I went upstairs to grab the ceramic platter from the hallway cabinet. The guest room door was half open. Lily was inside, icing cupcakes, I guess. I heard her voice first. I wish my mom would just leave already. I stopped. Not dramatic, just stopped. Then Bryce laughed. That low, easy laugh he does when he thinks he's clever. Not before she pays off the house loan. $270,000. I swear I felt my ears ring. $270,000. He said it like a countdown. There was a pause. Then he added, she won't fight it. She hates conflict. That one landed. For a second, I almost walked in. Almost said something stupid like, excuse me, but I didn't. I pulled my phone out instead. I don't even remember deciding to. I just hit record. Washington is a one-party consent state. I looked that up years ago for something else. Funny what sticks. I stood there listening to my own daughter plan my exit from my own house. And you know what's embarrassing? Part of me thought, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe there's context. That's how we lie to ourselves. I didn't cry. I didn't slam the door. I smiled. Small, tight. Closed the guest room door like I hadn't heard a thing. Then I went back downstairs and checked the oven timer. The crust was browning on top. Lily likes it that way. Bryce's voice stayed in my head all evening. $270,000. Like it was already his. 18 months ago. My husband collapsed in our driveway. Heart complications. He was gone before the ambulance even cleared the corner. We thought the life insurance would be simple, but a contested secondary beneficiary claim from his estranged brother locked everything in probate. For a year and a half, I was a ghost in my own life, fighting adjusters and lawyers while my husband's legacy sat in a frozen vault. For a year and a half, I dealt with adjusters, emails, callbacks that never came. I almost gave up on it. Honestly, I kind of did. I told myself I did not need it. Then this week, the deposit finally hit. $310,000. I stared at the number on my banking app for a long time. I did not feel rich. I felt tired. At dinner that night, I mentioned it. Casual. Stupid. Maybe. It finally came through. I told Lily while passing the salt. Her fork paused. Already after 18 months. Yeah. Bryce leaned back in his chair. That's good timing. The next morning, Lily cornered me in the kitchen. So when are you clearing the mortgage? I'm reviewing options. I answered. She frowned. It's $270,000. You said you wanted peace of mind. Peace of mind. That phrase again. They used it like it belonged to them. Later that week, Bryce brought it up while pretending to check the mail. If it's paid off, everything changes. He said, for all of us. I had already requested the payoff statement from the bank before Friday. I was thinking about simplifying things. Less debt. Less stress. Now I understood why Lily kept checking her phone every time I logged into mine. 3 years ago, Lily stood in the same kitchen with a stack of mortgage denial letters in her hand. They won't approve us, she muttered. Bryce's credit score isn't high enough. Bryce didn't look at me. It'll recover, he insisted. Just need time. That word again. They moved into my house 2 months later. Temporary. That was the agreement. They'd cover utilities. I'd handle the mortgage. I refinanced in my own name because it was simpler, cleaner. My credit was steady. Bryce's wasn't. No lease, no paperwork between us. She was my daughter. I didn't think I needed contracts. One night, after a glass of wine too many, Lily leaned across the table. When it's paid off, this will finally be ours. She smiled when she said it. Like she was already picturing furniture she hadn't bought yet. I should have corrected her right then. Instead, I nodded. We'll see. That was my mistake. Not the refinancing, not the money, the silence. A few months later, Bryce brought it up again. We could add our names to the deed. He offered. Flipping through some printouts. For tax efficiency, it's smarter long term. I looked at him carefully. Smarter for who? For the family. He replied too quickly. I'm comfortable with it as is. I told him, let's keep it simple. He dropped it, at least out loud. I realize now they weren't hearing what I meant. They were hearing what they wanted. Every mortgage payment I made probably felt like I was slowly transferring something to them. Maybe I let that illusion sit there because it kept the peace. I didn't want tension. I didn't want to argue over property with my own child. Bryce once joked, "You'll downsize someday anyway." I remember answering, "We'll talk about that when the time comes." Apparently, in their minds, that time had already been scheduled. Saturday morning, Lily was already dressed like she had somewhere important to be. Even though she didn't, she leaned against the counter while I poured coffee. So, are you wiring the payoff Monday? Not good morning. Not how did you sleep? I kept my tone steady. I'm reviewing options. Bryce walked in halfway through. Keys in his hand. It'll finally secure our future, he added. No more debt hanging over us. Over us? I took a sip. It's my name on the mortgage. He gave me a tight smile. Technically. Lily folded her arms. Mom, you said you wanted peace of mind. $270,000 clears everything. Everything for who I asked. She blinked like she didn't expect resistance. For the family. That word again. I haven't made a decision. I told them. Bryce's jaw tightened. We just need clarity. Clarity. From my bank account. That afternoon, I drove downtown and met with my estate attorney, Martin. He's been handling my paperwork since my husband passed. He listened quietly while I explained. He nodded once. You're sole owner on the deed. I know. They're tenants at will. If you want them out, it requires a 30-day notice to vacate. And if they refuse, it could take months through eviction court. I let that settle. And the recording I asked, Washington is one-party consent. You're within your rights. I exhaled slowly. Martin leaned back. If you clear the mortgage, they lose leverage. There's no argument about equity. I stared at the payoff amount on the paper. $270,000. I'll initiate the wire, I said. He slid the authorization toward me. Keep in mind, Elaine, Martin warned as I blotted the ink. Handing it to them is the first step. But I've already arranged for a process server to deliver the formal papers tomorrow morning. We're doing this by the book. No loopholes for Bryce to wiggle through. Saturday night, I logged into my bank account and stared at the numbers one last time. $310,000 from the life insurance payout. $270,000 owed on the mortgage. I hovered over the transfer button longer than I'd like to admit. Bryce's voice echoed in my head. Not before she pays it off. I entered the amount carefully. $270,000. Double-checked the routing number. Confirmed. The screen refreshed. Transfer initiated. Processing Monday morning. Just like that. I printed the confirmation and sat at the kitchen table. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator. I held the life insurance statement in my hands, my husband's name at the top. The date of death still looked unreal. "You told me to protect the house," I muttered, staring at his photo on the shelf. I slid the payoff confirmation into a large envelope. Then I added the 30-day notice to vacate Martin had drafted. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. Lily texted from upstairs. "Did you send it?" I didn't answer. Instead, I sealed the envelope and left it on the table. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was unsure. Because I knew Sunday wouldn't be about cake. By Sunday afternoon, the house smelled like chicken pot pie and cheap champagne. Lily's in-laws drove down from Seattle. Bryce's mother hugged me too tightly. "Thank you for hosting. Elaine, it's so generous of you." Generous. That word almost made me laugh. Neighbors filtered in. A couple of Lily's friends. The dining table was crowded. Lily glowed like this was her housewarming party, not her birthday. Halfway through lunch, she lifted her glass. "We're almost done paying off the house," she announced. "It's been a long road." I kept my fork steady. Bryce stepped in right after. To our future, stability, finally owning something. Owning. Glasses clinked. People smiled. His father slapped him on the back. "That's how you build equity, son. Equity." I brought out the pot pie. Golden crust. Lily didn't look at me when she took her slice. "This is the one you used to make," one of her friends commented. "She always does," Lily replied casually. "Not a thank you." Not even eye contact. Bryce leaned toward his uncle. "Once the mortgage clears, we can think about renovations. Maybe knock out a wall. I stood there holding the serving spoon while they redesigned my house in front of me. Then Bryce looked straight at me. "Right, Elaine." "Not Mom, not anything warm." I set the spoon down, picked up my glass. They were all smiling, waiting. I let the silence stretch just enough to make it uncomfortable. Then I stood up. I cleared my throat. The clinking glasses faded out. "I want to say something." I began, keeping my voice level. Lily smiled tightly. "Mom, maybe later." "No, now." That shifted the air. I heard something on Friday. Bryce's shoulders stiffened. Lily's hand froze midair with her fork. I went upstairs to get a platter. I continued. The guest room door was open. I looked straight at my daughter. "I heard you whisper, 'I wish my mom would just leave already.'" Silence hit hard. Even the kids at the end of the table stopped moving. Lily blinked. "That's not..." "And I heard," I went on. "Steady," Bryce laugh and say, "Not before she pays off the house loan $270,000. Bryce shifted in his seat. "Elaine, this isn't appropriate." I raised my hand. "Not dramatic. Just enough. You assumed I wouldn't fight." I said quietly, "You assumed I hate conflict." No one clapped now. No one smiled. Lily's face flushed red. "Mom, you're twisting things. We were stressed. It wasn't serious." $270,000 sounded serious. Her mother-in-law cleared her throat. "Maybe this is a misunderstanding." I slid the envelope onto the table between the plates and candles. It made a soft paper sound against the wood. "This morning," I continued, "the mortgage was paid in full." Bryce straightened. "Good. Then we can..." I didn't finish. He stopped. "I paid it off to clear the title." "In my name." His jaw tightened. "We're on the deed." "No, you're not." Lily stared at me. "Mom, that's not fair. We've lived here for 3 years." "Yes, you have." Bryce leaned forward. "We've invested time, money. You've covered utilities," I corrected. "I covered the mortgage, every payment." He opened his mouth again. "I also consulted my attorney yesterday." I added, That landed heavier than anything else. Lily's voice dropped. You talked to a lawyer? Yes. I tapped the envelope. Inside is the mortgage payoff confirmation and a formal 30-day notice to vacate. A glass slipped somewhere down the table. Someone whispered, "Oh my God!" Bryce's face went pale. You can't do that. I can, I replied. Lily's voice cracked. You're kicking us out. On my birthday, I'm reclaiming my house, I answered. On your birthday? The room felt smaller, hotter. I looked at Bryce one more time. You thought once I paid the $270,000, you'd own something, I said calmly. You were right about one part. I rested my hand on the envelope. It's fully owned now. I paid it yesterday. I continued. A couple of guests clapped automatically, like I'd just announced a graduation. Old habit. Good news equals applause. I didn't smile, but I paid it to reclaim my house. The clapping stopped midair. I pulled the payoff confirmation from the envelope and laid it flat on the table. Then I placed the second document beside it. 30 days. I said, formal notice to vacate. Bryce stood so fast his chair scraped hard against the floor. You can't just throw us out. I'm not throwing you out, I answered evenly. I'm ending a temporary arrangement that lasted 3 years. It wasn't temporary, Lily snapped. We built a life here. You lived here, I corrected. There's a difference. Bryce's father leaned forward. Surely there's equity involved if they contributed. They covered utilities, I said. Electric, water, internet. I covered the mortgage. Every single payment. Bryce's voice sharpened. We spent weekends sweating over that deck. Elaine, we put our own money into the landscaping. I didn't blink. You spent money on cosmetics to make your rent-free life more comfortable, Bryce, but you never pulled a single permit because you knew you didn't have the legal right to touch the bones of this house. Improvements without ownership are just expensive hobbies. He looked like he might actually explode. I reached into my pocket and placed my phone on the table. There's one more thing. Lily's face drained of color. I pressed play. Bryce's voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. She won't fight it. She hates conflict. 5 seconds. That's all I let it run. Then I turned it off. I said quietly. The silence felt heavier than before. Bryce's mother stared at him. Is that true? She asked sharply. Did you say that Bryce opened his mouth? Closed it. Lily's hands were shaking now. Mom, you recorded us. That's insane. It's legal, I replied. One-party consent. She looked around the table like someone might rescue her. No one moved. You embarrassed us, she whispered. I held her gaze. You planned to remove me from my own home once the loan was cleared. That's not. You discussed nursing homes. Lily. My voice stayed steady. Cheap ones. Her mother-in-law's eyes widened. What Lily couldn't answer. I slid the notice closer to Bryce. You have 30 days. After that, it becomes a legal matter. Bryce's voice dropped low. You're destroying this family. No, I said. I'm correcting a mistake. The next few weeks weren't dramatic, just tense, heavy. Bryce sent me a text 2 days after the party. You'll regret this. We're speaking to a lawyer. I forwarded it to Martin. His reply to Bryce came on letterhead. Formal, clear, sole ownership, tenant at will status, 30-day notice valid under Washington law. Bryce tried again. We invested time. Sweat. You owe us compensation. I don't. I answered. You owed me honesty. Lily attempted a softer angle. Mom, we can work something out. Maybe partial ownership. It was never shared, I replied. She stopped calling me Mom after that. Around week 3, they started packing. Quietly at first, then loudly. Cabinet doors slamming, boxes dragged across hardwood. It was petty. I let them have it. Bryce's father never called again. I guess the recording handled that. They found a smaller apartment in Puyallup. Higher rent than they expected. Bryce's credit hadn't magically improved. Lily looked tired the day they carried the last box out. "This didn't have to happen," she muttered. "It did." I told her. She blocked my number the next morning. The grandchildren stopped visiting for a while. That part cut deeper than anything Bryce ever said. The day after they left, I hired a locksmith, new deadbolt, new keys, legal, clean. That first night alone, the house felt bigger, quieter. I could hear the refrigerator again, no footsteps upstairs, no whispered phone calls. It hurt, but it was honest. 2 weeks after they moved out, I met Martin again. "I want to set something up for the kids." I told him. "Your grandchildren?" he asked. "Yes. Not Lily. The kids." We structured a trust. Funds accessible at age 25, education, housing, medical. Controlled by an independent trustee. Not their parents, so Lily can't withdraw it, Martin clarified. "She won't touch a cent." I answered. It wasn't revenge. It was boundaries. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with the last slice of chicken pot pie. I heated it in the oven out of habit. The crust cracked when I cut into it. Same recipe. Same house. Different air. My phone buzzed. "Lily, you destroyed this family." I stared at the words for a while. My chest tightened. But not the way it used to. I typed back slowly. "You mistook my kindness for dependence." 3 dots appeared, disappeared. No reply. I set the phone face down. "Here's what I've learned. And you can take it or leave it. Supporting your children doesn't mean surrendering your dignity. Helping doesn't mean handing over control. If someone builds their future on your silence, eventually you'll have to speak." I stayed quiet for years because I thought peace was love. It isn't. Peace without respect is just slow resentment. If you've ever felt used and told yourself it's easier not to confront it, I get it. I really do. But silence writes contracts you never agreed to. The house is quiet now, mine, paid in full. $270,000 cleared. No shared illusions attached. The house is quiet now. Paid in full, but every time I pass the guest room, I wonder, did I lose a daughter? Or did I finally escape a parasite? Some people say family is worth any price. I say $270,000 was a bargain to find out the truth. Love should never require you to erase yourself to prove it. What would you have done if you heard your child planning your exile? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one.